Before today's video starts, I want to mention that according to YouTube statistics, only about 23% of all the people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. If you end up liking today's video, please consider subscribing. After all, it's free and you can always change your mind and enjoy the video. I have a Patreon now, it's down there in the description. There are quite a few tiers, go check it out. It will help me out a lot if you decide to support me. On to the video then. Alright, so it's been a while. It's been about a week since we've last seen each other. I'm currently recording my screen using FFmpeg as I used to do on Linux. It works fine on Windows, believe it or not. So last week we were talking about events, and this week we're going to talk about strings. Now the thing with strings is that strings are mostly used for displaying like some sort of text. So you can have like multiple forms of strings, you can have only set forms of strings, you know. Look, strings are just used to show bits of text. You can create multiple strings and display them. What you could do, for example, is we can create a variable, for example, and we can call it, for example, I don't know, just text. And what it will have in it is, for example, it will say, this is some text, and that's what we're going to show. This is some text, and what we want to do is we want to type in document.get element by ID. Oops, wrong button. Of course my keyboard has switched. No, it hasn't. And what you want to type in here is the ID of the element you want to change. So for example, I want to change the result, for example. So let's do result, and then I want to say .inner HTML equals text, because we want to show the variable itself, so you can either click it or just tab it out. And what it should do is it should show us the result if I decide to refresh this. So once I refresh this, as you can see, this is our and I just said there's a typo, did not realize it. So we have to change it only in one place, therefore it changes in another place, and there we go. So that has been fixed. So what is the deal with all of this? What we can do in here is we can let me just, you know, have a look at everything. So basically what we could do, because I have my notes open so I can teach you guys this stuff. So what we can do is we can for example we can define them in double quotes like this, but you don't have to. You can also use single quotes. So let me just copy this and show you the same result. I'm just going to create another variable. It will be text1, and I'm going to put it in single quotes just to show you that you can indeed do this the exact same way, you know. Whoops, wrong button. Which one did I press? This one. And what we can say is we can change this to text1, and what we can do is we can say this is some text in single quotes. We can save it, we can refresh it, it's going to change. So as you can see, it's once it changes, it pretty much stays like the same, and that's because strings are interpreted, you know, with single quotes or double quotes, and that's what JavaScript knows to interpret as a string. Now that's all cool and all, but there's a few more things we can do actually with this. What we can do is we can have the exact same bit of text as long as we have a different variable name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have here another variable, and it will be text3, for example. Oops, text3. And what I want it to do is I want to have it in double quotes, for example. I'm going to copy this set of text, if I can copy it properly. There we go. And we want to put it in. Want to save the file, and why did I say text3? It should be text2. And what we can do is we can display them on both. So here's what I'm gonna do to show you that it does work. I'm going to leave text1 here, but instead of result, I think it was called text. Yes, it was called text. The way I know this is I look at the ID, and the ID is text. So what I want to do is I want to just change the ID here from result to text. I think it was text. Yeah, text. So, and here I'm going to change it from text1 to text2. So what should happen now is this should be moved up here, and our new string, which will be the exact same thing, will be in the exact same spot. And there we go. As you can see, it's the exact same, and it doesn't complain. If I press F12 in this browser window, and we go down to the console, you see no problems at all. This is how you can determine if you're missing a letter or something, so you know if something is happening or not to your capture. Sorry, not to your capture, but you know, to your to your code. There is anything you missed, you can check it like this, and it will work just fine, hopefully. So yeah. So what we can also do, we can also display the length of some text. So to do this, I'm going to use the second one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy all of, well, I don't have to copy all of it. Sorry about that. So what we can do is I can do, instead of text2 here, I'm going to comment this out, because I'm going to be reusing a lot of this stuff. You guys don't have to, but I commented this one out. That's why it's so dark. I'm using the community material theme. It's a really nice theme. And what you can do is, since it's a text variable, we can say, for example, text1 dot, and it will see all these other functions that are built in. And you can say length. And what this will do, it will change the second text to the amount or to the length of our string. There we go, it has 38, well, it says 38, that's what I wanted to show anyway. It tells us the length of the string, that's all you have to know. There's also text that you can write to make it seem like it's some sort of a, you know, like to put it in quotes, like inside of the text. So what you can do is you can normally, if you were to put, let me just create another variable, but this time it would be text3, so I don't have to. I usually like keeping my variables up here because it's easier for me to manage. So I'm going to say text3 here, and this is what I'm gonna do. So this is sum, and we're going to put in quotes, simple, not sample, but simple. I cannot type. Simple text, and I think it has to be, yeah. So if I decide to run this, it doesn't work. So if you press F12, you can check what's wrong, and it says that there is an unexpected identifier. Oh yeah, I forgot. You have to end these off with semicolons. That was my bad, I did not realize it. So if we refresh this, it will still say the same thing, because it noticed that there's a problem with this, and this is a syntax error. You can view this in the console by pressing F12 and then clicking console. So a simple way of putting in quotes is just, you know, putting a backslash into the mix like so. So put the backslash under the double quotes. Therefore, what it will do is it will put it in quotes, will it? It won't, because we have to do this thing now. So I'm gonna copy this, and we're going to put in, oops, wrong place. We're going to comment it out, we're going to put it down here, and we're going to change this from text1 to text3 this time around to show us the result. And you can see up here, it says simple in quotes without any sort of error, which is what we wanted originally. You can also insert single quotes like this. If you want to say like it's alright or something, you can do it the exact same way, just replace these double quotes with single quotes. I hope it's obvious. Look, so all of this code I've been writing, it makes it look like real easy, you know, I make it look super easy in terms of all the length and such. But the thing is, let's say, I should probably talk about some proper formatting as a sort of a quick example. Just a little note to be put into this video. So, look, normally programmers and coders alike don't like reading anything that is above like 80 columns in length, which isn't perfect. Like 80 columns, it's like too long to read, you won't pay much attention. So what you can do is you can break up a one-liner or one line of code into 2 lines. So what you can do, well, you can use it with, you can do it to a string, but you cannot do it to a line of code. That's a misconception I mentioned. That's not true. You can only use it on strings. The way you would use such a thing is, let's say I want to change the result text, for example, to something new. So I'm just going to copy this, I'm going to comment this out so that it doesn't bother us anymore. I'm going to paste it in, and this is what I'm going to change it to. Let's say so normally programmers wouldn't just look at this and read it fully, that just doesn't make any sense. So you'll have this long piece of text here, and we're at 95 columns. A best practice is to avoid lines of code that are longer than 80 characters. So I would have to break it somewhere around here to fit into that margin. To do strings, luckily, make it real simple to do. What you can do is you can insert a backslash. A backslash is a preferred method, but it might not have universal support, which means some browsers may not even allow you to break up text like that. So what you can do, normally if you were to do this, it will say an error, it won't register. So in order to keep it consistent and working, you can see it's still highlighted in green in my theme right here. If I want to break it, I have to put here a backslash, and you'll notice that it's moved down and it still kept its color. So let me show you this. I'm going to return it one step where I didn't have it. I'm going to save it, refresh it. It doesn't change to anything because there's an error. So to solve this, what you can do is I'm going to redo it. You know, I'm going to redo it to the point where I put in the backslash in order to put it on the second line. I save the file, I refresh it, and it works all of a sudden. It starts working. That's because by putting in a backslash, it will allow you to break up the long line of code onto a next line of your code, which makes it much easier to read for people who are following up on your code or on the thing that you were writing beforehand for them. However, this will only work if you want to break up strings. It doesn't work for anything else. Strings are the only thing that will work with this, at least that I know of. So only strings are allowed in this sense. Strings can actually become objects themselves, which is the final part of today's video, so just bear with me here. Strings themselves can become objects. So the way you would do this is you would do the following. So I'm gonna uncomment all of this because we're gonna need a blank slate for all of this stuff. So let me uncomment this stuff so that we can start working normally. Alright, so we're now done here. And what we have here is a blank space essentially. Don't worry, all the code is up here, it's just commented out. You'll be able to see it on GitHub down there in the description. So here's the thing. Let's create a variable and call it, I don't know, username for example, because I don't have anything better. And we're going to put in, put in double quotes, put in a semicolon here to end it off properly, and let's say, what? Kevin. Let's say Kevin. Kevin here, you know, a bright individual. And let's create another variable. And what we want to do is we want to, I don't know, let's say we want to give him a password, for example. So let's say password. Again, I wouldn't suggest that you do this, but let's say you want to make it into a string, only a string. So let me show you a method that will make it so it is an object actually. So we type in new. New is a keyword that complicates the code itself, okay? And it can produce some unexpected results. So one thing I should mention is that if you can avoid using objects, if you have to use objects and it's absolutely key to your solution, use them. If there are other ways to your problem, use them. Don't use something that you think is best. Use something that should work better. Don't use unnecessary things that may end up slowing down your code. The last thing you want is put your code into the environment in a production space for it to slow down the production, therefore costing the company money. With my small rant out of the way, let's continue. Type in string, because we want it to be a string essentially. And what we want to do is we want to type in the password of the user. So I'm going to put in these brackets, open and close parentheses, sorry. And you want to put in double quotes. And in double quotes, let's say, Kevin, let's say burp will be his password, for example. I know it's not a perfect example, but now what we can do is we can, I can show you a method which you can view stuff. So I haven't shown you this, but it's really useful if you have access to the console in your web browser. So what you can do is that instead of printing out stuff into here, what you can do is you can use the console.log. So console with the log function, and I cannot type today. And what you can do is you can type in the following: type of, and then the name of the variable. So for example, we'll say type of X. What we should see if we refresh it, our code has changed to the point where it's back at the original, but nothing else has changed. So what's the big idea? Well, with console log, you have to press F12 in your web browser. If you press F12 in your web browser, you want to go into the console section. So go over here, and it's saying it's undefined. Why does it say it's undefined? I don't know. It shouldn't say that it's undefined. It should say that it's... Oh yeah, I typed in X instead of... I'm stupid. Username. I was looking at my notes so much I did not realize it. So let's go back after fixing it, and now it works. So it says it's a string. That's because we wanted to see what type our variable username is if we did not know. One really cool feature from Visual Studio Code is you can hover over a variable. It will tell you what form of variable it is. Therefore you don't have to use this method, but some utilities won't allow you to do that necessarily. So we can use this console.log again, but this time we want to see what type our let's type in type of, and let's say we want to view the type of password. and we're going to end it off with a semicolon. So if I refresh this, we'll see two entries in the console right here. The first one saying string. That's because we wanted to see what the type of our username is, which indeed is string because it's a string. But you'll notice that our password over here, written this way, is an object. Now again, let me tell you this. If you can avoid using objects, it will just unnecessarily slow down your code. Now this is only in the case if you want to make like some sort of a string. Instead of making strings this way, just put it in double quotes like the first one and you will be fine. It will work just fine. If you, however, by any chance have to use objects, use them. I'm not forcing you to stop, it's up to you. But then again, I'm just trying to help you guys get over some things. There's one thing I should mention. There is a few stuff I wasn't able to cover in today's video. That's because it's only comparing, you know, this to this and what happens if you compare an object to a string and if you compare two objects. That's not important. The important thing is to be able to just show you different methods of outputting text. So, well, not outputting just text, but today's video was just about strings. What you can do with bits of text. As you can see, I was talking for about 23 minutes just showing you what you can do with just bits of text. That was it. That was all I was doing. I was showing you a different method, something that may be a bit more applicable and acceptable for you as the end user. So then again, you can use all this knowledge you just accumulated in your head and make some really amazing applications. And with that, I'm gonna leave you with this base code down there in the description in my GitHub. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and follow me on pretty much all my social medias or on my GitHub page even. You can contact me via Twitter, Instagram, whatever you see fit. And on that note, I wanna thank all of you for joining me today, and make sure to stay safe and have fun.